On live television in 2013, Vladimir Putin and his wife Lyudmila stood before a reporter after a ballet performance and calmly announced their divorce. There were no tears, no warmth, just two people ending a 30-year marriage as if reading a script. Within months, Lyudmila vanished from the Kremlin's website. Her name, once printed beside Russia's most powerful man, disappeared completely. But she hadn't. Born on January 6, 1958 in Kaliningrad, Lyudmila Shkrebnova grew up in post-war ruins, in a cramped communal flat where privacy was a luxury. Her father worked long shifts in a factory, and her mother toiled as a cashier. From childhood, Lyudmila looked after her younger sister, cooked, cleaned, and dreamed of becoming an actress. She joined drama clubs and even auditioned for the Leningrad Theatre Institute, but was rejected. To survive, she took odd jobs, nursing, postal work, until she entered Leningrad State University in 1975. While most students graduated in 5 years, she stayed for 11, working nights at the post office to pay for food. She lived in an unheated dormitory, wore the same clothes for years, and often skipped meals. Still, she excelled in philology, mastering Spanish, German, and French, and performing in university theater productions where classmates remembered her energy and charisma, traits that would fade after her marriage. Her command of languages landed her a coveted job at Aeroflot in the early 1980s. Being a flight attendant in the Soviet Union meant rigorous training, psychological testing, and political vetting. Only 3% of applicants were accepted. Because she spoke foreign languages, Lyudmila was cleared for international flights to Cuba, Nicaragua, and East Germany. Rare privileges that paid triple a domestic salary and offered glimpses into the outside world. But Aeroflot flights were also full of KGB agents. Crews were watched, passengers reported, and even small talk in foreign tongues could be dangerous. In 1980, Lyudmila's flying career ended abruptly after she was accused of selling sandwiches and snacks on board, illegal trade in the Soviet system. To avoid prison, she resigned quietly and returned to school. Years later, she claimed she'd always hated flying. Perhaps it was fear. Perhaps it was what she'd seen on those flights. In 1980, while visiting Leningrad for a comedy show, she met Vladimir Putin, then a KGB officer undercover. He was punctual for work but chronically late for her, often leaving her waiting alone for hours. Despite the coldness that would define their relationship, she stayed. They married in July 1983 aboard a small boat on the Neva River. Only shortly before the wedding did he reveal his true job in the KGB. In 1985, the couple moved to Dresden, East Germany, where Putin was stationed as an intelligence officer. Lyudmila, now a mother to two daughters, Maria (1985) and Katerina (1986), lived under constant surveillance. She learned the rhythms of espionage life: secrecy, silence, and endurance. Those years would shape her more than anyone knew. When they returned to Russia in 1990, Lyudmila became a German instructor at Leningrad State University. The Soviet Union was collapsing, but she thrived, introducing modern teaching methods and mentoring female students. She emphasized independence and critical thinking at a time when women in academia were often sidelined. Her classes drew from East German literature and real-world experiences she'd lived through. In 1998, her life shifted again. She took a low-profile job at Telecom Invest, a company deeply tied to Putin's political allies and future oligarchs. On paper, she was an office manager. In reality, the firm was the center of billion-ruble telecom privatizations that built the financial backbone of Putin's circle. Her desk sat at the heart of deals later investigated for massive money laundering through offshore networks in Bermuda, Luxembourg, and Switzerland. Her role, small on paper, placed her inside the machinery that transformed public assets into private empires. When Putin became prime minister in 1999 and later president, Lyudmila was presented as the modest, private first lady of Russia. She launched a national literacy program, distributed thousands of books, and personally mailed packages from her own library. In 2002, she famously blocked a proposed Russian spelling reform, declaring the country not ready for it. But beneath her public gentleness was a growing isolation. Despite her early career in aviation, she had developed a crippling fear of flying after a near disaster in 1984. As First Lady, she refused to accompany Putin on international trips, rarely appeared at state functions, and began withdrawing from public life. By 2008, she was barely seen. Rumors swirled that she had retreated to a monastery near the Estonian border, donating over $2 million to Orthodox churches and sitting through long liturgies in silence. Her marriage to Putin had long been strained. She once called him a vampire and said he treated her like an unpaid maid. He, in turn, joked that anyone who can live with Lyudmila for 3 weeks deserves a monument. When he became head of the FSB in 1998, instead of retiring from intelligence work as he'd promised, she felt utterly alone. That loneliness played out before the nation on June 6, 2013, after the ballet La Esmeralda at the Kremlin Palace. Standing stiffly beside Putin, Lyudmila announced that their marriage was over. "It was a civilized divorce," he said. She added softly, "Each of us has our own life." By April 2014, her name was erased from every official biography. But her new life had already begun. Months after the announcement, she quietly married Artur Okretny, a man 21 years her junior who had worked in state event management. In 2014, he purchased Villa Susanna, a $5.4 million seaside mansion in Anglet, France, despite having no visible fortune. The same year they acquired luxury apartments in Marbella, Spain, worth over $2 million, timed to Spain's Golden Visa program for property investors. Locals whispered the homes were really hers. They were right. Through a tangle of companies, Lyudmila controlled Moscow's historic Volkonsky House, a Tolstoy-era mansion bringing in millions in rent from tenants like VTB and Sberbank. She also ran a non-profit called the Center for Development of Interpersonal Communications, which received enormous state grants, 25 million rubles in 2012, 62 million in 2015, while refusing to publish financial records. Officially, the center hosted self-help workshops and brain gymnastics sessions. In reality, it managed valuable real estate and cash flows hidden from scrutiny. Investigators later discovered she secretly owned 7% of Carmoney, one of Russia's biggest microlenders, through an offshore firm in Cyprus. By 2019, that stake alone was generating substantial profits. Altogether, her known assets, through property, companies, and foundations, were worth over $11 million, far beyond her modestly declared income as First Lady. Publicly, Lyudmila appeared reborn, traveling with Artur through London, Davos, and Southern Europe. Privately, the wealth trails pointed back to the same networks that had enriched Putin's allies for decades. The fairy tale ended abruptly in December 2023, when French authorities seized Villa Susanna, freezing it as part of a money laundering probe prompted by Transparency International. The investigation targeted how a man with no wealth could buy such an estate right after Russia's presidential divorce.